The rain fell in sheets across the landing platform of the Imperial Dreadnought Celestial Fang, each drop hissing against the superheated hull plating. Ezra sat with his back against the massive landing strut, a half-eaten ration bar clutched in his grease-stained hands, letting the cold rain wash over him. He didn't mind the rain. On Earth, before the Draconian Empire had arrived, he used to sit on his apartment's fire escape during storms, watching the city lights blur through the water. That Earth was gone now, not destroyed, but transformed, integrated, conquered, some would say, though the dragons preferred elevated to Imperial protection. Mechanic Reeves. The voice rumbled like distant thunder, and Ezra's heart nearly stopped. He scrambled to his feet, ration bar tumbling from his hands as he turned to face Empress Grace herself. She was magnificent and terrifying in equal measure. Her scales shimmered like molten gold even in the dim light, each one the size of Ezra's hand. Her wings, currently folded against her serpentine body, could blot out the sun. Her eyes, ancient, intelligent, and currently fixed on him, glowed with an inner fire that had reduced entire fleets to atoms. "Your Celestial Majesty," Ezra stammered, dropping into the clumsy bow he'd been taught. "I didn't hear you approach. I was just eating in the rain," Grace finished, her massive head tilting with curiosity that seemed almost alien on such a powerful creature. "Why?" Ezra felt his face flush. I finished early on the port stabilizer repair. I was hungry. I'm sorry if I've broken protocol. I'll return to quarters immediately." "You misunderstand." Grace lowered her head until one enormous eye was level with Ezra. "I do not ask why you eat during your rest period. I ask why you choose to eat here in the rain alone when the crew mess is warm and dry." The question caught Ezra off guard. In the 3 months since he'd been assigned to the Celestial Fang as part of the Human Auxiliary Engineering Corps, the Empress had never spoken to him beyond giving orders. Dragons of her rank typically treated humans as useful tools, valued perhaps, but still just tools. Ezra hesitated, then figured honesty couldn't make things worse. "The crew mess is for your people, Majesty. The dragons. Humans eat in the auxiliary bay, but I needed space. To think." "Space," Grace repeated, a strange note in her voice. "To think?" She settled onto the platform with surprising grace for a creature of her size, her tail curling around her body. The rain continued to fall, but Ezra noticed it seemed to avoid the Empress, evaporating into steam before it could touch her scales. "Sit," Grace commanded. When Ezra hesitated, she added, "That was not a request, Mechanic Reeves." Ezra sat, his heart hammering. The Empress was silent for a long moment, her gaze fixed on the storm clouds above. "Do you know what we call your species in Old Draconic?" she finally asked. "I've heard the translation." "The persistent ones." "A poor translation," Grace said. "The phrase means more than persistence. It means those who endure what should break them yet refuse to be broken. We observed your world for 7 cycles before first contact. We saw your wars, your disasters, your endless capacity for both cruelty and kindness. We saw you reach for the stars with primitive chemical rockets, knowing you might never return. We saw you singing in the rubble of your destroyed cities, planting gardens in wastelands, raising children in the midst of chaos." Ezra said nothing, unsure where this was going. "When the integration began," Grace continued, "our analysts predicted complete social collapse within your species. Humans would discover they were not alone, not special, not the pinnacle of creation. You would learn that empires spanning thousands of worlds existed while you still struggled to colonize your own moon. The psychological trauma, they said, would be insurmountable. Some did break," Ezra admitted quietly. "The suicide rates that first year. Yes, some broke." Grace's eye fixed on him again. "But most did not. Most humans did what you have always done. You adapted. You learned. You found your place in a galaxy that had no place prepared for you. Within a single generation, humans became indispensable to the Empire. Your engineers think in ways our people cannot. Your diplomats understand nuances we miss. Your artists create beauty that moves even the most ancient dragons to tears." Ezra felt a lump forming in his throat. "Then why do we eat separately? Why do your people still call us auxiliaries and attachments? Why am I sitting in the rain instead of—" He cut himself off, horrified at his own boldness. "Instead of where you belong," Grace finished softly. The Empress was quiet for another moment, and when she spoke, her voice carried a weight of sorrow that shocked Ezra to his core. Because we are afraid. Afraid? The word burst from Ezra before he could stop it. The Draconian Empire controls half the galaxy. You've never lost a war. Your people live for millennia. What could you possibly? We are afraid of how much we need you, Grace said. We are afraid that if we acknowledge your true worth, we must also acknowledge our own inadequacy. For 10,000 years we have been the Empire, the standard by which all others are measured.
And then came humanity, chaotic, brilliant, infuriating humanity, showing us new ways to think, new ways to feel, new ways to be.
Showing us that perhaps we are not the final answer to the universe's questions. She lifted her head, and Ezra saw something in those ancient eyes he'd never expected to see. Tears that evaporated instantly in her natural heat. So we keep you at arm's length. We call you auxiliaries. We make you eat separately. We tell ourselves it is for your own comfort, for smooth integration, for tradition. But the truth, Mechanic Reeves, is that we are terrified of loving you too much. Because you are fragile. You live such brief, burning lives, and we who live for ages know that every human we allow into our hearts is a wound we will carry for centuries after you are gone. Ezra felt his own tears mixing with the rain on his face. All this time he'd thought the distance was contempt. He'd never imagined it was this. I come here sometimes, Grace continued, her voice barely above a whisper, to the rain, to the places where my crew thinks I cannot see them. And I watch the humans eating their rations, laughing at jokes I don't understand, finding joy in moments I would overlook. And I envy you. Your brief lives burn so bright while we dragons smolder on for empty centuries. She rose, towering over Ezra once more. But now he saw her differently, not as a conqueror, but as something achingly lonely. Tomorrow, Grace said, when you come for your evening meal, you will eat in the crew mess, not the auxiliary bay. You will sit wherever you wish. That is an imperial decree. Your Majesty, and Ezra, she added, using his first name for the first time. Thank you for eating in the rain. It gave this old dragon an excuse to finally speak a truth she should have spoken long ago. Then she was gone, launching into the storm with a crack of thunder, leaving Ezra alone with his cold ration bar and the realization that changed everything. The dragons hadn't conquered humanity. They'd been terrified of falling in love with them. And Grace, Empress of the Draconian Empire, already had.